Man, that RFK news hit me like a truck. I didn't really believe they'd go through with it. I didn't think they'd go through with it. I thought they'd give him a off appointment. That's what I said. I said this yesterday. So can I just fully put out there that I was wrong? I thought they would repeat what they were doing with Elon. And I still slightly stand by the idea that Elon's appointment is going to be an F-off appointment. I'm a little less certain of it. I think they've made the structure of an F-off appointment by giving him an agency that's not governmental that advises the president, because that means that they could just like take advice and be like, sure, buddy, sure, or do like maybe like attempt to do one thing but fail, or attempt to do another thing. But if you put RFK in front of HHS, you put him at the head of it, he's going to be overseeing the CDC, he's going to be overseeing the FDA, he's going to be overseeing stuff like disaster response. He's going to be overseeing research and development and like toxicology. He's going to be, so much. So many government agencies, the HHS oversees. We joked yesterday about RFK being appointed to head the FDA. So he would like try to, manipulate not manipulate, but he would have control over maybe some dietary policy or, food regulations. But no, he's in charge of the agency that oversees the FDA on top of a bunch of other agencies. That's crazy. That's crazy. The funny scenario that I put in my head to throw it out there like, ha ha ha, this would be crazy. This would be wild. If RFK was appointed to the head of the FDA, they're like, no. How about not only the FDA, how about all of these other health-related agencies, including disaster response, and have him advise the president on health policy? The same president who said that the heat would get rid of COVID. Okay, that's great. That's fantastic. Why not? Why not? Why not? It's only the health of the country. And, RFK talks about, how bad it is that we've fallen so behind in, life expectancy, He thinks he can get that number lower. He's ashamed that it isn't low enough. Yeah, it is. It's frightening to me, too. He can't get approved. He can't get approved. I don't want to, draw a line anywhere because I don't know how much the Senate will crawl under Thune for Trump. Out of all of the Senate leaders, I think Thune was probably, out of the three options, not out of all of the people in the Senate, put Lisa Murkowski as Senate leader, and I think you're going to get a much different reception. But Thune was supposed to be, of the three options, probably the most likely to buck Trump because of him calling for Trump to withdraw in 2016, his condemnation of J6, and the people who engaged in violence and calling for them to be arrested, which has gotten some reaction from the J6 political prisoners types who have been online, so really, really upset that Thune got the office because they thought that violent criminals and people who tried to participate in an overthrow of the U.S. government, particularly the democratic process, deserved some repercussion. Because of that, he shouldn't be Senate leader. We need somebody who didn't do that, somebody who wouldn't call out violent crime. And that's what it is, by the way, violent crime. The quotes in the Twitter message looked quite reasonable to me. What do you mean? What Twitter message? I wonder if that was real. Expand on that. We're cooked? I don't know if we're cooked. Because Lisa Murkowski is not going to vote for this. Okay, that's the first one. And then you've lost Susan Collins. And then you need to lose two more. Now, who are those two more going to be? I have no clue. And by the way, this is the same math I have for Matt Gaetz. Marco Rubio, I think will get approved without too much trouble. The defense secretary might have a few bumps in the road, but honestly speaking, all the stuff that disgusts me and makes him unqualified outside of a lack of credentials, which is probably going to be the major sticking point for someone like Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins, the more moderate, quote-unquote, Republicans, Susan Collins being in a bluish area, so she has to moderate even if she didn't want to, and Lisa Murkowski being an independent Republican who bucked the party even when they tried to take her name, out of the Republican running. She ran as a write-in independent and still won. So she has her own ability to be independent. He can't say the same thing. about other senators. Susan, I think Trump learned his lesson, Collins. Look, I'm not a fan of Susan Collins when it compared to a Democrat. But when you look at the entirety of the Republican Party, she's the least bad option. Now, if you have a really, 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 really bad pool, outside of that pool, that really wouldn't matter all that much to me. Like, it wouldn't really amount to all that much, because you compare Susan Collins to, I don't know, Chris Van Hollen, or like anyone on the other side, yeah, I'm going to find more agreement with them. But within that camp, even if I think she's been weak on Trump, I don't see how someone like that could ever vote for RFK to head the HHS. I just can't see it. I've been thinking about it all day. Well, not all day. Ever since I've heard about it, I've been thinking about his path to confirmation, because, I mean, there's so much. Him comparing, like, vaccine policy to the Holocaust, him calling for the shutdown of research into diseases for 8 years, him calling for the destruction and shutting down of all these different health departments that provide crucial health services, just his not vaccine skepticism, his anti-vax beliefs. And when you say, well, you know, because people will bring up these quotes from RFK where he says, well, he doesn't say all vaccines are bad. No. He just believes basically all the vaccines that have been developed in the last 30 to 40 years have been bad. Okay, so all the vaccines that you're using, all the vaccines that kids are getting and that are helping them, those vaccines. If it's a vaccine from 1950, or it's a vaccine from his new reformed program, maybe it would be different. But all the new vaccines, though, they're all bad. They're all bad. Fucking health department's gonna be headed by a brainworm. It's bizarre, man. Elections have consequences, man. Elections have consequences. This is the first. Look, I'm not one to be like, I told you my candidate would have been better, and here I'd be preaching to the choir anyway. But I mean, man, this is a real elections have consequences moment. This is the degrading, decrepit effect of rabid populism gone amok, has lost of all sense, that is anti-institutionalist, not to a point. That's what this is. There isn't a point at the other end here with RFK. There's no, like, let me read you a theory of his that he said on the Theo Von podcast, okay? Now, the Theo Von podcast is from, he's a comedian, you know, I think he's kind of funny, but, you know, he has on a bunch of political guests as well as, like, normal guests, and he decided to have RFK on when he was running for president of the United States. I don't know if she had other, I don't know if she had, I said she, I didn't know Theo Von transition. I don't know if he had guests who were like Jill Stein, you know, the other Chase Oliver, the other third-party candidates, but he had RFK on. Let's see if I could find this quote. I had it written down somewhere. Sorry, there's a lot has happened today, so I have my notes are kind of everywhere. Here it is. No, this is a year before he announced his presidential bid. Sorry, so this is before he announced he was running for president. He appeared on the podcast of comedian and reality TV star Theo Von, a recurring guest on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he presented a harrowing tale. A global elite led by the CIA had been planning for years to use a pandemic to end democracy and impose totalitarian control on the entire world. There's not a point to that. There's no, okay, here's the good policy recommendation, or, well, you know, he's not right about all the specifics, but, you know, in spirit, there's not, this is just anti-institutionalism based in conspiracy with no policy recommendation at the other end here, except for burn down the system. That's what this guy, he's the burn down the system HHS pick. Do you guys think that if you've been working at Health and Human Services for, I don't know, like 20 years, and you've built up a repertoire with your colleagues, you've gained experience, you know what you're doing. You know the department, you know the people who work there, you know how to get things done, and you're good at your job. And as much as people like to hate bureaucrats, I grew up in the DC area. I know quite a few bureaucrats. For all of the pencil-pushing, pencil-neck geeks who suck up money, there are also a lot of competent professionals who do really, 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 really good work. In fact, I would even say that's the majority of them. Whoa, crazy, but, you know, call me a blue blood fed if you want to, but I do believe that to be the case. That isn't to say that there's nobody that either is, not good at their job or sucking up money or just, kind of pencil pushing middlemen. But the vast majority of these people care about their work. They want to help the country. They want to protect the country. And as much as you can point as one mistake here, one mistake there, one mistake over there, if you start bleeding these people because you put a Neanderthal in charge of them, somebody who knows very little about these topics outside of the deranged ramblings of internet forums, how are you going to expect those people to stay at those jobs? How? And I've already heard from some people that when I say some people, I sound like Trump. People are saying there are former HHS staff that are coming out and saying, look, I've got friends still at the HHS, and they're telling me they were, they didn't know if they're going to stay at the job or not, and maybe him, maybe this. And now they're like, okay, I'm jumping ship. And let's say, best case scenario, it's like, I don't know, just one person here, one person there, just a few disgruntled staffers who, before we even got him confirmed by the Senate, are jumping ship. All right? Best case scenario. I'll even believe that, because if I was at the HHS, I would at least wait to see if he was going to get confirmed by the Senate, which we still don't know if he is. But if he is confirmed by the Senate, if Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins vote against it, but they're not able to get the extra 2 to defeat the Senate appointments, or Senator Thune, the new Senate Majority Leader for the Republicans, actually acquiesces to Trump's demands of just having a bunch of recess appointments, abusing the recess system, which is supposed to allow the president to appoint people like when Congress is not in session, even though Congress could very well be in session to do this. It's not a question of, Congress cannot function and the president needs to keep the state afloat. It's abusing the process. The same abusing of the process that the Supreme Court criticized Barack Obama for doing and stopped him from doing. Now Trump wants to do that exact same thing in a much, 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 much broader, worse fashion to appoint basically the entirety of his cabinet. So assuming either scenario where Senator Thune whips the party in line, or they're not able to get enough breaks, or even the recess appointment disaster scenario, which would reduce the power of the Senate. It would be the Senate voluntarily giving up its authority to the President of the United States after the President of the United States had chosen a bunch of bad cabinet picks that at the very least deserved a discussion around them, even from the most pro-Trumpian position you could take while still having some decent shred of faith in you. A conversation about these people who are going to be heading these departments, presumably for the next 4 years, is at least warranted before we give them power over such gigantic institution. I hear so much about the transparency. I hear so much about the need for government controls and the people controlling their government. The elected officials are the ones that are supposed to control the government. Not just one elected official, but elected officials from all 50 states that represent counties and districts from all across America. And if you remove the Senate's ability to check these appointments, then you're going to get whatever Trump wants. And whatever Trump wants is RFK. If any of these scenarios go through, I do not see how the Health and Human Services Department does not bleed staff, bleed experienced staff, and maybe that's even the point for RFK. I mean, if you want to destroy an institution, you put somebody at the head of it who doesn't believe it should exist. I mean, for Matt Gaetz, that's another example. Matt Gaetz, where's this? I'm sure I have this quote somewhere of Matt Gaetz talking about we need to abolish this and this and that and this and this and that and this. If they do not come on our side, if they're not with us, then they're against us, and so we need to abolish this, that, and this and that. And all of those departments he was saying just so happened to fall under the purview of the Attorney General, the exact cabinet position he was just appointed to. Dylan, you were the one who taught me about Hoi 4. I have over 1,000 hours now. Oh, you poor, poor soul. You poor, poor soul. I did not mean to do that to you. I did not mean that. I'm so sorry for you. No, I love it. No, you don't know what you love it like a junkie loves heroin. Okay? Poor soul. Poor soul. Let's see if I can find this clip of him online. If I'm talking about abolishing this, abolishing that, abolishing this. Here it is. I found it. You know, for how effective all these like Republican voters against Trump's groups and, you know, the Lincoln Project was in actually turning out votes, they sure are good at clipping their own side. I think that's honestly the the most effect the Lincoln Project and these other organizations did, is helping give people like me clips to use online. But now this is an example of it. If you don't believe an institution should check your power and you want to cripple it, either because you don't believe in it, for example, you get an anti-union guy to head the Labor Relations Board, or you get somebody who, for example, doesn't want these checks and balances to stop you. Listen to this. The man who just got appointed to Attorney General.
Government back on our side, or we defund.
Listen, we get the government back on our side.
Government back on our side, or we defund and get rid of, abolish the FBI, CDC, ATF, DOJ, every last one of them, if they do not come to heel.
So basically, his pitch is, if they do not come to heel to the President of the United States, Donald Trump, that specific President of the United States, and they do not fall under his political loyal purview, then you got to get rid of him. And I mean, it's not surprising from like Donald Trump's attack dog who came in on the MAGA wave in 2017. But if you're going to appoint a guy like this, who has zero experience as a judge, zero experience in the Department of Justice, zero experience as working in the government at all, around legal issues. I think this would be the first time a person had been nominated and then approved, if he is approved, to be Attorney General in like 50 years, who was not a judge or worked for the government in some legal capacity. He was just a private lawyer. And, you know, I was looking through his record. I was trying to find, like, okay, what would give him some credentials to do this? And, I mean, he got a law degree from William & Mary Law School, and he worked in a firm in Fort Walton Beach, Florida, in the private, private form. So he was private. He was not working as, like, a public prosecutor or something like that. And, yeah, that's really it. He is a lawyer. Well, the only thing I can find from his record online that is of any note is the fact that the Florida bar briefly suspended his license in 2021 due to unpaid fees. Okay. I mean, he eventually paid those fees. $250 if you were curious. But there's nothing here that would suggest that he could run the Attorney General's office, advise the president on legal matters, and, also run the largest law and justice organization in the United States that oversees so many subdepartments that he also does not have experience in. But for me, when I think of the Matt Gaetz appointment, it's a question of political loyalty. The Attorney General's office under Trump, even with Bill Barr, a guy who was really close to him, did not just back and write off and like co-sign all of Donald Trump's crazy legal theories that he wanted to use to stay in office or otherwise. In fact, Donald Trump would kind of bleed legal staff for the entirety of his time in politics, to the point he was like hiring lawyers they could find on TV. And the reason was, it was really hard to get a lot of credible, upstanding lawyers to co-sign a lot of his crazy legal theories. Like, when you try to look at the legal basis for what John Eastman was proposing and what his other lawyers were proposing during the overturning of the 2020 election, I mean, it was a bunch of hogwash. And so when you get somebody like Matt Gaetz, maybe for Attorney General's office, maybe it doesn't really matter all that much if he has experience. The question is loyalty. And with a man who could be as compromised as him, for something we'll get into in a bit, political loyalty of someone like Donald Trump, that's a big asset for somebody who has a big weakness. And he has been loyal since 2017. He might not have a lot of legal experience, but he's politically loyal. But that also means that he might not do what the institution was meant to do, which is to give real legal advice to the president and not just tell him, yes, sir, we'll do that right away, sir. It's to run this gigantic institution and not to just gut it from the inside, because you don't really believe in it as a check and a balance in the first place. And when you think of RFK, I kind of view it in the same way. Even though I don't think Donald Trump particularly cares about like burning down the medical institutions as a concept, I think he cares much more about like tearing down the DOJ than he does I assume the CDC, but Matt Gaetz here gave a shout out to the CDC too and tearing that a new one. So not exactly. Not exactly. My God, it's so bad. It's really the bleak timeline. I mean, like, I have grandparents, right? I was raised by my grandparents. What am I supposed to do if there is another pandemic and it's something that could, you know, affect elderly people worse, as many pandemics do, and they're trying to get information on what to do, on if they should go in public, if they should not go in public, and then you got RFK at the helm. That's something I'm genuinely worried about. I don't know if you guys are worried about it, but I'm genuinely worried about that. What if there's like a disaster, a natural disaster, and he has to? I mean, can we read some of these, some of the responsibilities of the Health and Human Services? But let me put up screen here exactly the disaster we're dealing with right now. This RFK appointment. I'm in. God, man. Here we go. Wait, no, that's the sorry, that's woman testifying. That's the 17-year-old that Matt Gaetz allegedly slept with, testifying to the Health Ethics Committee that she was 17 when he slept with her. Sorry, I just clicked that. You know, things happen. Things just tend to happen sometimes. Oopsie Butterfingers. Yeah, oopsie Butterfingers. I dropped my sex pest complaint on the floor. I hate when that happens. Don't you guys hate when that happens? I hate when that happens. God, man. Like, let's just go through like some of these clips. Okay, can we just go through some of these clips? And I don't want to get excessive here with the RFK clips, but I mean, we need to go through some of them to give you guys an idea of, wait, I forgot. I was going to read the different organizations the HHS oversees. So Health and Human Services, to be clear, oversees, and this is not all of it. These are just the stuff I grabbed quickly to just read off to you guys, to give you guys a purview of just how many staff members and how much of the federal government's emergency response, toxicology, health response, and just general, you know, health and human service, how much they cover. The Center for Disease Control and Prevent...
Anti-vaxxer as health minister? Time to invest in child-size coffin manufacturers.
Actually, while... man, that's bleak. We do have one interesting tidbit. Vaccine companies like Pfizer and otherwise, their stocks have plummeted massively. I've seen like 30 to 40% decreases actually in some of these companies. So there is some market reaction to RFK's nomination. But here's one example. Here's RFK Jr. claiming that Bill Gates and the elites are using 5G satellites to control us and are implementing a digital currency to cut off our food supply.
In 5 years, we're going to see 415,000 low-orbit satellites. Bill Gates says his 65,000 satellites alone will be able to look at every square inch of the planet 24 hours a day. They're putting in 5G to harvest our data and control our behavior. Digital currency that will allow them to punish us from a distance. And
he's just like rapid firing them off. It's like next I'm waiting for like Hollow Earth and, you know, goblins under the rocks. Like there's trolls. There's a bridge troll that they don't want to tell you about the trolls. I saw the trolls. And I mean, some of this stuff doesn't even make much, like, what better... Compare Biden, as much as we didn't solve cancer during Biden's term, compare Biden's picture on the campaign trail of, I want to end cancer. I want to cure cancer. Now, is that an ambitious goal, one that he was not going to meet in his term? Obviously, unless we get some big breakthrough in the next 2 months, I don't expect it, then we're not going to cure cancer during his term. But I want people who are ambitious. I would rather have somebody shoot for the moon in advancement and health. I like the idea of researching, cures for diseases. I want to make Alzheimer's not as destructive for the elderly. I want to make it so that if we are going to age older and older and older, that those older years are healthier and more enjoyable, so we can have not just a lengthened life, but we can have a quality of life. And that's going to require continued research and development, because we certainly have not, conquered the many enemies of human mortality. We'll never conquer them all, but we at least want to help tame them until we all meet our demise, And if we're going to do that, we're going to have to do a lot of research. We're going to have to do a lot of development. And you know what RFK's stance on that is? Let's pause it. How about we pause research on infectious diseases and drug development? Let's just pause it. How many years do you guys think that should be for? You know, because they're just so corrupt and evil, you know? How about a year, 2 years, 3, 4, 5? No, how about 8? 8 years. This is when he was running for president. This is not from like 20 years ago. This is from like less than a year ago.
I'm going to go to NIH. My first week, I'm going to call all the division heads and I'm going to call all the bureau chiefs. And I'm going to say, we're going to give drug development and infectious disease a break. A little bit of a break for about 8 years. And we're going to study.
How is the 8 years? How's that a little break? What do you mean 8 years is a little break? That's like 10% of a person's life. What do you mean a little break? You know what like a little break is? Like a few months maybe. Like we want to like revamp this. 8 years? 8 years? You're not even going to have the position for that long that he's being nominated for. 8 years of a pause? That's not a pause. That's stopping it. That's stopping it. Let me just, again, I don't think I listed these. Let me list these organizations that he will be overseeing if he gets this job. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, the National Institute of Health, NIH, the Indian Health Services, Health Resources and Services Administration. This is an organization that helps provide health services to people in geographically restricted areas. So like, you know, areas in the Midwest where there's only like, I don't know, like 50 people or whatever. Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, the CMS. Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry. Administration for Strategic Preparedness and Response. So we're talking about disaster response, stuff like that. Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. You know, the same research that he wants to put a stop to. My God, out of all the things, I want to strive to go to Mars and then the moon and then the, you know, stars and like science and develop. Why pause it? Reform it, okay, but why pause it? We have not conquered morality. We have not, there's so many more. Why pause it? Who's going to come out and say, you know what we should do? We should stop researching and how to do our job better. For how long? 8 years. 8 years? 8 years? We hear so much about like government efficiency and the needs for improvement of government efficiency. And his main pitch is, let's make the government less efficient as the standard. Oh, and even if you needed 8 years to reform it, why do you need so long? Why do you need, like, why not like 5 months, whatever. Okay, let's go through a few more. Here's him, of course, comparing public health guidance to, you know, Hitler, because, you know, Trump as Hitler was so divisive. It was so horrible. And of course, I'm not a big fan of, you know, every comparison to Hitler, etc. But to be clear, I don't want to hear this from the Trump admin. I don't want to hear this from the Trump administration. Oh, we don't want the divisive rhetoric. Oh, we want the unity. Stop with the Nazi comparisons. When you're going to pick this guy to head an administration and give him a very influential health administration, when that's the real, like, really the only issue he's bad on a bunch of issues, but the issue he is worst on, and give him a giant pedestal.
We are watching something now that I never believed that I would see in my lifetime. That I read in Orwell and Kafka and Aldous Huxley, this dystopian science fiction novels that one day the United States would be overtaken by fascism. Fascism, incidentally, is defined, Mussolini defined it as a merger of state and corporate power. And orchestrated by Tony Fauci.
I'm sorry, can I just throw out there, I know that there's not like one perfect definition of fascism, but I always felt like that, what a shallow definition of fascism. So because in the way that this is described, in the way that he's using it, like a public-private partnership is fascism. Like the idea of the government working with a company to achieve a goal, that's fascism. So like all the companies that, you know, help to pave the road, whatever. It doesn't make much sense to me. I feel like fascism is a little bit more substantive than that, but okay.
seeing today,
Man, them bringing up Fauci really riles up the crowd. Oh, they're chanting "Lock him up" for Fauci, of course. I forgot the crowd we were dealing with.
They are putting in place all of these technological mechanisms for control we've never seen before. It's been the ambition of every totalitarian state from the beginning of mankind to control every aspect of behavior, of conduct, of thought, and to obliterate dissent. None of them have been able to do it. They didn't have the technological capacity. Even in Hitler's Germany, you could cross the Alps to Switzerland. You could hide in an attic like Anne Frank did. I visited in 1962 East Germany with my father and met people who had climbed the wall and escaped. So it was possible. Many died trillion, but it was possible. Today, the mechanisms are being put in place that will make it so none of us can run and none of us can hide.
You can just leave. You just go in the forest, dude. America's giant. Go in the forest. Go get a cabin. You know how many places there are in this country to hide if you need to disappear? You know how many forests there are in Colorado? You don't think there's like some rinky-dink town in Oklahoma they can screw off to and nobody's gonna bother you? Like, you can hide in an attic. You don't think the SS constantly search for... This is fear-mongering for fear-mongering's sake, for either the purpose of grift or delusion, maybe a combination of both.
They're going to have the right to compel unwanted medical interventions on us. The Nazis did that in the camps in World War II. They tested vaccines on gypsies and Jews. And the world was so horrified after the war, we signed the Nuremberg Charter. And we all pledged when we do that, we would never again impose unwanted medical interventions on human beings without informed consent. And yet in 2 years, all of that conviction has suddenly disappeared. And people are walking around in masks where the science has not been explained to them. They are doing what they're told. They are these government agencies are orchestrating obedience. And it is not democratic. It's not the product of democracy. It's the product of a pharmaceutical-driven biosecurity agenda that will enslave the entire human race and plunge us into a dystopian nightmare where the apocalyptical forces of ignorance and greed will be running our lives and ruining our children.
And he saw a white horse, and that white horse's name, that pale horse, was Fauci. Come on. This isn't, there's, if he is head of the HHS, all progress on medical research assisted with the government is gone. It's just gone for the entirety of his term there. Any improvements in efficiency, don't even get me started. Not happening. Retaining staff, bringing on more experienced personnel, don't even think about it. You're going to bleed it. I think there's a chance he'll hollow out the organization. How can you work for a man like this if you have any respect for yourself, let alone health and, servicing the American public, health and human services? My goodness. And the thing that gets me, that aggravates me most about this pick is I was told, and others were told, and the entire American public were told, and people called him a liar. We all knew that when, I'm saying we all, but this is not true that everyone knew this. RFK went to the Harris campaign and asked, what would you need? Can we please make an arrangement so I can get a government position in exchange for an endorsement? The Harris campaign said, no. We do not care. Leave. We don't want to be associated with you. He leaves, goes to the Trump campaign. What offer do you think he gave them? Do you think it was the same offer? I think it was the same offer. Boom. And now we have the result. So this was completely like I don't think he's even that much of a partisan. I think he's completely just trying to find some way to claw up into power, and Trump would play ball with him because they knew it was going to be a close election and something that could be decided on the margins. And by him dropping out, even if, you know, his name would still be on the ballot in many of these states, you know, if you're winning by 80,000 votes, 50,000 votes, something like that can make the difference. And this is the payback. This is the payback. We all knew this was a possibility. I thought there was a chance he was going to get an F-off appointment because it's not like Trump hasn't backstabbed people before, and this would be a person that'd probably be beneficial for both the country and Trump's reputation, mind you. I think this is going to be a disaster for Trump. You think RFK can stay out of a scandal for 4 years if he's going to be the head of this organization? And RFK does not have the same charisma as Trump. I don't mean to be mean to his disability, but his voice sounds like his nails scratching on a chalkboard. He's not particularly charismatic. His whole family hates him. He's a loon. I think the people that he plays to, the small crowd he plays to, is not the vast majority of the American public. And if he hollows out the organization and we have an actual public health crisis, how is he going to handle that? He doesn't have experience in an organization like this, or with government health organizations, or coordinating any. He has no experience that would really be relevant for this position whatsoever. And don't even get started on his actual health record of when his theories are put into practice. If you go look at what happened in Guam, my God. Look, we were told that this guy, though, by his transition co-chair, Howard Lutnick, by other Republicans, I was told by, you know, just everyday supporters who were trying to convince, oh, don't worry about it, you know, it is what it is, but he's not going to get an actual influential position. Listen to this. Listen to this from, actually, you know, this is a 3-minute thing. We don't need to play the whole thing. But in this clip, the co-chair, Howard Lutnick, for the transition team, the people who are moving the Trump admin back into the White House, he said clearly he would not be in charge of the HHS. And not only did he say he would not be in charge of the HHS to alleviate concerns on October 30th, so we're talking like 5-6 days before the election, he's saying this, and not even a month later, it's no, never mind, head of the HHS. He said, of course not. Of course not. And it's not just him. There were others too. For example, I know Destiny and a bunch of other people were interviewing Richard Hanea, and Richard Hanea is somebody who can, you know, kind of prickle some conservatives sometimes because he will reflect on negative sides of the Republican side, even though, you know, he voted for Donald Trump this election. He sometimes will critique Trump. And so they brought him on to be like, what about all these critiques? You know, are you really going to vote for Trump? And they got to a point where Richard Hanea was clearly defining in what scenarios he wouldn't vote for Trump, because he doesn't hate institutions to the point where he's fine with them becoming decrepit and our services degrading, the garbage men not working, etc. He doesn't want that. And so he said, well, if he appointed RFK or Elon or Tulsi for a position, by the way, of those 3 people, Elon gets this unofficial government institution, Doge, very original, that's going to be working with the government, but it's not an official government department, even though Elon gave it the official government department checkmark on Twitter. But, you know, fake sticker doesn't make it true. Tulsi and RFK, the other 2 of the 3 people, they're nominated now. They're nominated. And he said he would vote for Harris if he thought that was going to happen. But clearly, that would never happen. That'd be too wild. That would not happen, obviously. Obviously.
I have prediction marks. I have money, actually. So I put a bunch of money that RFK would not be nominated for a cabinet position. Tulsi would not be.
Oh, damn! Okay, I forgot this, too. He put money down. He put money... Well, I guess he paid for his hubris. So, all's well that ends well, except for the country.
Be nominated, and Elon would not be nominated. Now, if Trump wins, I don't think they're getting cabinet posts, but I would rest a lot easier. I would win, tonight if Kamala won. So I actually do have a lot of money. I'm not betting directly on the election, but I am betting sort of secondarily. So I have a lot of money that would come my way if Kamala won.
So you win those bets if Kamala wins, right? Because then, by definition, Elon and
I'm never
right.
going to board them. Exactly, and it's fucking insane that the public market gives a 40% chance that Trump wins and nominates RFK to a cabinet position. So Trump's 60% chance to win, 40%. So that means that they think it's a 2/3 chance he's going to be nominated to the cabinet. I think that's insane. If I thought Trump was going to do that, I'd vote for Harris.
Wait, hold on. Wait, what the fuck do you mean?
Would.
What do you mean? What?
Which position do you think he's going to give him?
Some portfolio without, some minister without portfolio, something he just makes up. He makes up a lot of positions.
Yeah, what was Kushner's position in the White House? As he was drawing up the fucking Abraham Accord. What the fuck?
He'll just have an influence. I mean, whether it's a formal cabinet position or not, I don't know why that's the big decider for me.
Man, this isn't even funny to me. This is just infuriating.
Whether or not it's a formal cabinet position, whether
I don't think he's going to have power. I think he's going to sit around the White House and he's going to be put on some commission. And I don't think it's going to affect governance. I mean, I think he's going to.
What's the basis for that intuition?
What's that?
What's the basis for that intuition?
Because I think the Republican Party is basically run by a lot of corporate lobbyists and, to a large extent, people who are saner than the people you see on Fox News and on Twitter.
Wait. If that was true, why would Trump have gotten the nomination for the third time?
Well, that's the voter. That's the voter.
Well, I thought you just said it was run by corporate lobbyists and everything.
Well, no, because who puts up like the voters? If the voters were voting on the HHS secretary, the Republican voters, they would pick RFK, and they would probably pick Tulsi, and they would probably pick they would pick Cat Turner for Secretary of Defense.
So you think
Cat Turner for Secretary of Defense? No, you got a Fox News host for Secretary of Defense, and to replace a 4-star general. But not Cat Turd.
you think that Trump's cabinet is going to be filled out by corporate lobbyists and everything?
Yeah. What do you think it's going to be like? RFK and Tulsi Gabbard? I don't believe so.
I think it could be, absolutely. Sure.
God damn! God damn, he missed so... it just hurts. I read it. I knew what he said, but it just hurts to hear it. What? RFK and Tulsi? And then RFK or Tulsi are announced. Not only are they announced, they're announced on the same day. My God. Oh, God, it hurts.
I don't know who would stand up to Trump.
I hope he bet a lot of money.
So he's got to need to confirm in the Senate. RFK is not going to get Murkowski and Susan Collins, and there's a lot of just normie Republican senators that are not household names that would not like RFK. So that's all it would take. Tulsi Gabbard.
But wait, this isn't a question about. He said he wouldn't nominate. He could. Why not make the bet like? I guess that wasn't the bet online that you could take up. But why not make the public? The better bet would be that he wouldn't get through. I'm not sure if he's going to get through. I'm hoping. And I'm going to say I think he's not, just barely, like 51% not going to get through. And I think half of that extra percentage point is just me on pure copium. Like, it can't be that bad. Somebody has to step in and say, Trump, the institution has to work, or there's going to be something's going to happen in 4 years. RFK is going to do something. It's going to be a disaster. It's going to be you're going to destroy your legacy. Like, I mean, you can't go from mishandling COVID to then appointing RFK to head the HHS. You don't want to have back-to-back health emergencies in both of your administrations. One impacted by the environment around you, because you can stop COVID's creation, but then your bad response to it, and the other totally self-inflicted. Just nominate some doctors, any pencil pushing, it could even be a politically loyal one if you need one for this position. But why not nominate some doctor? I'm sure you can just call around and find anyone to replace RFK. Same thing with Tulsi Gabbard. Find some black suit somewhere, some CIA goon from 30 years ago, who's been doing intel analysis that, is friendly enough with the Republican Party. Anyone else.
I got a lot of hate her for her foreign policy views.
By the way, obviously I would prefer to nominate somebody completely outside of their purview of politics. But these are people that I do not think will run the institution well. I think they'll degrade the institution. And I think Tulsi is, honestly, probably a low-key security risk.
And so, yeah, I mean, he's going to appoint, the Republican voter being crazy does not change who the judges that he's going to appoint to the federal judiciary, right? Nikki Haley and Trump would appoint the exact same people to the federal judiciary. The voters are just crazy. You just have to sort of let them, they have their way.
The judiciary is its own beast, though, right? I mean, the judiciary, they're going to be handpicked. They're going to be FedSoc people. That's a little different, I think, than the agencies. And I think that maybe his first term...
It's a big process. The FedSoc has people that they like for the agencies. The lobbyists and the people around Trump have people they like for the agencies. He doesn't just, go. He's not just going to do this on his own. He's going to be taking input.
So can we take one example? Let's take Attorney General. You think he's going to...
Wait, Attorney General, I gotta hear this. Who's he gonna nominate for Attorney General?
If he wins, is he gonna nominate some Trumpy guy or some institutional corporate guy?
So it depends on who can get confirmed. I think Attorney General is a unique case because he wants to basically be able to do whatever he wants. He's still got to worry about the confirmation thing. So something like Mike Lee would make sense, even though Mike Lee's sort of crazy now, because he would probably get confirmation because he's a senator. So yeah, I think that probably more lean towards Trumpy, but HHS, something
more lean towards he is gone in the Trump pool and he is just sunk to the bottom. Matt Gaetz sunk to the bottom. My goodness, man. It hurts. It honestly hurts to rewatch that. It doesn't feel good. I don't feel relief or like, haha, I told you so. It's just painful. Oh God, man. It's gonna be old grandma that pays the bill for this too. It's gonna be old grandma that because you don't need healthcare as much when you're younger. It's gonna be elderly people that are gonna be suffering the most in this. Obviously, like, there's other people that could be hurt, immunocompromised young people, others, but it's gonna be largely older people. It's terrible. Terrible. God awful.